Welcome to the GTN show.
Yeah, welcome. Today, of course, we are talking about the Women's Ironman World Championships, which happened this weekend.
Yep, we have some updates on Heather, who was out there for the race, plus our own take on the first ever women's only Ironman World Champs in Kona.
Yeah, we're also going to be discussing the new Ironman Pro Series, boasting a whopping 1.7 million bonus prize pool, plus some new tech from Kona.
Yep, let's start the show.
Hey guys, I will admit you have been missed out here, but I'm also not gonna lie, it has been an absolutely epic couple of weeks. Now, I'm not gonna go into loads of detail on the race because, well, hopefully you've watched the full race report, and we've also got a really great insight from Lucy Charles-Barclay, and I'm imagining you guys are gonna wanna have a little bit of a chat about it yourselves. But I'm just trying to reflect on what we've done over this last sort of 11 days of filming, and it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but some of the highlights: spending a day with Laura Phillip was pretty cool, just getting to know her. Cycling with a professional ultra runner, that was interesting. It's the only way I was going to keep up. We also got sweaty with the Precision Fuel and Hydration boys running in the Energy Lab. Went back up to Harvey, the turnaround point in the bike course, which was the last time I was there was when I was racing 6 years ago. So it was really cool to do that. We hung out with the Zwift Triathlon Academy. I mean, they are in quite a nice house, a little bit better than ours, so that was part of the reason there. Obviously, ate lots of pokey, had to introduce Belinda to acai because she was new to acai bowls. It wasn't just about eating though. What else did we do? I had a bit of analysis on my posture, which is another video coming soon. Basically, we have filled every single daylight hour by either eating, doing some sort of video, or finding out and chatting to pros and getting insights. So it's been incredible. Oh, and I can't forget having the odd dip in this beautiful ocean. And that reminds me, the sun is about to go down, our final sunset. I'm sad to say that I am on a flight back home tomorrow, so we will see you back in the office. There is still plenty more footage to come, so keep an eye out for all of our videos, but my Kona spam on my socials is gonna have to finish pretty soon.
Well, thank you very much, Heather. We are not jealous at all, are we, James?
No, it doesn't look like they had any fun in Kona.
No. Yeah, no, we are very
Moving
jealous.
on.
They have done some amazing stuff out there, some cracking
awesome
videos.
content, yeah. Thanks, guys.
So thank you very much. But on with the show, we will hear more from Heather very shortly. We had Challenge Mallorca this weekend, and I saw this clip from Imogen Simmons. Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. Ooh, that did not look fun. Luckily, this was in T2, so she didn't have to then mount that bike and ride it for 90 kilometers, because I'm not sure the bike was still functioning. We'll get to the results of that race a little later on.
Do you think her plan was attack T2? And then,
attack back. Yeah, I mean, they put the carpet down there obviously to protect their feet, but it looks like it hit a few bumps, which is never a good thing. Yeah, and then we had this one, the Columbia men's swim team going for the fastest ever 25 meter, and they had an interesting strategy on how to get that.
I mean, do you think it's legal if you don't enter the water past 15 meters?
I'm pretty sure you have to come up before the 15-meter backstroke flags. He wasn't even in the water yet by the time he got to the 15-meter backstroke flags. Still very impressive.
I mean, it technically didn't even start from the wall either.
No,
it's not quite 25 meters, so I don't think it's really going to be a world record,
no,
is it?
I don't think so. It's still pretty
Very
cool
impressive.
attempt. Very impressive.
Cool. And finally, not such a great one, also from Challenge Mallorca. Again, we'll get on to the results very shortly. Lucy Buckingham, unfortunately, doesn't really know what happened, but I think it was around 6K into the run. She found herself on the floor with medics around her.
She said, got my bike nutrition and pacing totally wrong today, overheated, and then paid the price with being pulled from the race. 6 kilometers into the half marathon, I apparently went very wobbly, not running a straight line, and my heart rate plummeted. She says apparently because apparently she can't really remember.
Oh, well, I hope she is doing okay, and thoughts with you.
Now it's time for Tri News. And whilst we wait for the PTO to announce their collaboration with World Triathlon on what their Pro Series is going to be next year, Ironman has thrown their hats into the ring by announcing the Ironman Pro Series for next year, which is going to consist of 18 events. That's 6 full-distance Ironmans, 9 70.3s, plus the World Champs for both men and women in Ironman and the World Champs for 70.3.
Yeah, and what's interesting is this is open to all pros, of which there are apparently around 1,000 pros worldwide, which kind of shocks me, actually. Prize money for individual races is apparently going to remain consistent and the same as previous years, with a few tweaks, including a slight increase in the Ironman 70.3 World Championship prize purse of now up to around $500,000.
Yeah, but the big addition is the bonus pool of $1.7 million to be handed out at the end of the year. That is $1.3 million for the top 10 men and women, so spread out across them. The winner, the top point score, again, $200,000 bonus for the year, down to 10th place, and then another $400,000 on top of that, spread out from 11th to 40th to 50th. So the next 40 in the world, men and women, will share another $400,000, making a $5,000 bonus if you're in the top 50 in the Ironman points at the end of the year.
Yeah, and to gain points, obviously first place earns maximum points. So for an Ironman win, you'd get 5,000 points, and for a 70.3 win, you get 2,500 points. And then for the Ironman World Championship, 6,000 points, and the 70.3 World Championships, 3,000 points. Then the points essentially cascade down on a time deficit to first place, with 1 point per second behind that winning time, all the way to no floor.
Yeah, so there's 18 events in this calendar. Athletes can choose any combination of the 18 events to score their points, but their top 5 points count, and you can only count up to a maximum of 3 full distance events. So I guess to get the maximum points, you're going to have to do 3 full distance events with 5,000 points on the line, plus 2 very good 70.3s. Otherwise, you're just not going to
stand down Joe Skipper and Kenworth, who are thinking about doing 5 back-to-back Ironmans.
Yeah, well, they could do 3 back-to-back Ironmans. I guess get all their points in 1 month if they wanted to.
So what do we think to this then?
Well, clearly it's a big challenge by Ironman to the PTO and this PTO structure that they've decided with a world bonus scheme and everything like that, which is obviously drawing the pros to really support PTO and favour those PTO races which have lots of points towards their bonus ranking. This now gives athletes another incentive, another choice, another option to focus on Ironman events more than the PTO events, which I think is not a bad thing, particularly because the PTO has been very, let's say, middle distance heavy.
Yeah.
They have 100k races, which are less than 70.3s, and then the 70.3 points count towards it. Ironmans do count points towards it, but there really isn't a showcase for the Ironman specialist. And this, obviously, you can specialize. You can get 3 really good Ironmans, and you're getting a good bonus at the end of the year, even if you didn't even qualify to go to the PTO events that are middle distance.
And that PTO tour, as you say, it's very exclusive. You've got the top 20 male or female athletes potentially racing that event. What about all these other athletes, which is what Ironman, I guess, are trying to fill? So in a way, whilst it's not a bad thing for PTO, they have helped the triathlon or the pros by pressuring Ironman into doing this.
Yeah, I think that was part of their game plan from the beginning, was like, we're going to do this and you're going to have to join us, otherwise everyone will leave your series, which is exactly what they've achieved, is that Ironman have gone, we have to increase our prize purse, otherwise athletes will start favouring other series, which is great. It's really good news. I do think it's a little bit, it's going to have a few teething issues on the first year. I mean, firstly, the point system is a little bit simplistic. I mean, PTO did go the other direction, and their point system was very complicated to begin with, and no one really understood how it worked. They have since refined that, and they explain it, but it takes into account how much prize money is at the event, the depth of the field, the strength of the field, etc., and then it takes into account your performance relative to the other athletes in that race. Whereas this is 5,000 points for the win. And it's 5,000 points for the win of the European Ironman Championships. It's also 5,000 points for the win of Ironman Lake Placid.
Well, also, 3,000 points for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships, which is only 500 points more than a 70.3 win elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's less than going to win an Ironman. You're significantly better off winning an Ironman that weekend than winning the Ironman 70.3 World Champs, which is doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's going to be interesting how it all plays out. Now, this is all going to kick off in April with 70.3 Oceanside, and that's going to run through the year with these events that we've mentioned, all the way through to the Ironman 70.3 World Championships, which will be in December.
Yep. Well, we'll be watching closely, and it's going to be an interesting year next year.
Well, guys, yes, I have one more piece of tech from Kona that we have just spotted since putting out the tech tour, but hopefully you've already had a good look through that. If not, go check it out. Now, this is from a startup company called Ghibli, and they actually won the startup award at Eurobike a couple of years ago. And we're now getting close to production with this device, the G10. Now, this is an aerodynamic wind tester, basically, that can be used in real time on your bike to give you feedback as you're riding with exactly your CDA. And the unique thing you'll probably notice straight away from this is how it does look different to other devices that we've used on the channel, and you've probably seen in the past, in the fact that the pitot tube is usually purely cylindrical all the way down. And this has a sort of rounded, flat shape at the end, and it makes it unique. When you look through a certain angle, you can actually see that the wind can enter through it, almost as though it's got its own wind tunnel that comes out the other side. So that adds for that accuracy, because when you're traveling at the slower speeds, obviously pitot tubes have predominantly been used in aeroplanes where they're going at a much faster speed. So this allows for the accuracy at that slower speed. And another really unique sort of factor here are these little ports, which are also detecting the wind, but they are very importantly detecting the wind angle. So as you're riding in real time, they will be detecting what direction that wind is coming from, because very few of us get to go and obviously test in an aerodrome, not in an aerodrome, in a velodrome, obviously. And then within that, you've got the GPS factor here, so it's constantly measuring your speed without needing a separate device and a battery and a rechargeable part here. And obviously these devices aren't particularly cheap, so if you do get it dirty or the sensors get blocked, you can clean this, you can remove this tube as well if it does get broken. So hopefully it gives it plenty of longevity. And I think the really unique thing that I find really interesting about this is the fact it can give you that real-time data as you're riding along outside in the real world. And we know that wind directions change. We don't necessarily find the perfect flat, straight area with no wind or a consistent wind. And it will do all of those measurements itself. I don't understand the exact calculations, and I think that has apparently taken years for the scientists to get there with this. But you can basically record one test or even do it on a loop or an out and back, change something as small as your aero shoe covers or your gloves, and then compare that. And once you've finished, you obviously get the real-time data, but once you've finished, you can then select certain things you've tested and compare them. And I think for triathlon, when we're going over such large distances, we're often talking about, well, you've saved X amount of watts, or you've saved, that's your CDA, how does that convert? Well, this converts it all for you, and it tells you how much time or how many watts you'd be saving if, say, you were doing a half Ironman distance or a full Ironman. So it's certainly something that I am very intrigued to go and try out, and I think it's coming on sale at the beginning of next year.
Well, thank you for that, Heather. That's a cool bit of kit, isn't it? Right, well, moving on, we've got another cool one. This is an app, though. An app that we're actually hoping to use in an upcoming video, so stay tuned. It's called Mover. Now, Mover allows you to earn rewards through your activity, and with those rewards from your activity, you can then go on to buy kit and equipment for triathlon, cycling, running, whatever you like. Now, all you need to do is download the Mover app, and then that will link itself to various training platforms like Zwift, Apple Fitness, Fitbit, as well as devices such as your Wahoo, Garmin's, Google, Apple, whatever you like. And then once you've got that set up, you then start earning credits that they call moves. And then you can trade those moves within the Mover app for products and get discounts off the products, essentially. And yeah, it all obviously is based on brands that are associated and connected to Mover.
And there's all kinds of things on there. All run apparel, swim kit, triathlon kit. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm not sure how much exercise you have to do before you can earn some of that kit, but we'll give it a crack and let you know. Okay, moving on. A few weeks ago, Heather and I spoke about the Shimano recall of their Holotech cranks, and we actually did we tell you we checked your bike, your crank?
I'm aware.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure you knew. Yeah, Mark's is on the recall list. So basically, they had to recall, it was a ridiculous amount, so 2.8 million cranksets across the US and Canada and around the world that had to be recalled, or they say recalled, they have to be inspected. They say only 1 to 2% of them are going to be going to fail the inspection and they actually have to be replaced. But now there is a class action lawsuit against both Shimano, Trek and Specialized, because they are saying that they have misrepresented this recall. So basically they said that these companies have knowingly and intentionally misrepresented, omitting, concealing, and or failing to disclose material facts regarding the quality, reliability, and safety of the crankset. So they're basically saying they're trying to save costs by not issuing a full recall and only recalling the ones that are damaged. Now, Shimano have their process for this is you check the code, which we did on Mark's one, and then if it's a code that is on the recall list, you then have to take it to your bike shop and the bike mechanic has to inspect it and say whether it needs a replacement or not.
Which seems a bit unfair on that mechanic.
Well, exactly, and this is what the class action lawsuit is alleging, that you are now asking untrained people with no equipment whatsoever to assess them and then send you back on your way and say, Mark, yours is fine, off you go and ride it. And then if it fails, not only is Shimano on the hook for this, also that bike mechanic who said it was okay is on the hook for this. And this is not fair, not on the consumer and not on the bike mechanics. And they are proposing a class action lawsuit against them and saying they should recall all of them. Now, it hasn't been approved yet. They are looking for a jury panel for this class action lawsuit. So if it gets approved for a class action, it will go to a jury to decide whether Shimano are on the hook for it. But this is going to keep going for a while because, as we've noticed, both Mark's bike and actually my road bike are on the list. And this is going to affect a lot of consumers around the world. So we'll keep watching this closely.
And if you're interested, it might seem like a complicated system to find out whether yours is on the it's really not. So basically just go onto the Shimano website and they just have a 2-letter code and a list of them, and you just need to check it. It's very obvious, just the 2 letters on your crankset, and you can find out within seconds whether yours is needing recalling or not.
And then until we know what you're supposed to do, just keep a very close eye on it. Take it to your bike shop if you are concerned, but essentially the bike shop's going to do exactly what you're going to do, which is a visual inspection and check that nothing's going a little bit wrong with it. So just do that regularly until we know the outcome of this and the whole recall. A bit worrying.
Well, history has been broken today, so who better to speak to than the man who knows all about triathlon history? Bob, you've seen Lucy win her 3 silvers and then a gold this time.
Yes.
And you know all about these records. I mean, when did you last see the course record broken, and did you expect to see it today?
I did expect it to be broken today, and I expected the run course to go down as well. And Annie Haug got, 2:48 and broke the course record for the run. And Lucy broke the overall course record. We saw Gustav, last year have a phenomenal day. So it's, records are meant to be broken. And the way the technology now with the plated shoes and the way they ride the bike, it's pretty special. And when you look at what Lucy did, I think Lynn Lemaire in 1979 was first out of the water, first off the bike, and finished the race. But I don't think there were any other women in the race. So that's a little different. Dave Scott, 1980, led the whole day as well. But it hasn't happened very often.
And what about for an athlete who's won an age group before? So obviously won the age group world championships, Lucy, Charles, and then now I don't think many people have done that before.
I don't think that many have done it. I think we had Lori Bowden, who ended up winning here twice as a pro, but started out as an age grouper. Her and her mom both raced, sort of similar to what we have with who am I forgetting? Taylor Knibb. Taylor Knibb and her mom. So I love that we're watching history, and at the same time, our newer athletes are coming from their parents, right? Their parents are getting into the sport and they're following suit. And a lot of these kids are starting 8, 9, 10 years old and loving our sport and staying in our sport.
Yeah, that is true. 40 odd years here now. So that is kind of a generation and a bit, isn't it? And, we're seeing suddenly a lot of records be broken. But if you look through the sort of 40 odd year history that you have followed, have you seen a wave of this many records go, or is this unusual? Like over the last few years?
In the 80s, we had a lot of changes. So, Paul Newby-Fraser in 1988, when she went 9:01 and finished 11th overall, right? Only 10 men in front of her. And her time was maybe half an hour behind the male winner, Scott Molina. So we were doing a lot. And Dave Scott, if you think about it, that guy, when he came over in 1980, the course record was 11:15 and he went 9:23. Right? So we were seeing records plummet. And Dave was the first guy to run the marathon under 3 hours, under 2:55, under 2:50. And he was the first guy to go, he went sub 10, first guy to go sub 10, 9.5, 9. And he was the first guy might have been the first guy to go under 8:30 for the bike ride too. To go under 8:30 for the race. He went 8:28.
And it was 2018, we saw that incredibly fast year when we got the records for the men and the women. And it was Patrick Langer going under 8, wasn't it, back then? But Where do you think we can go? Like, how much more is there in these records, do you think, now?
I think there's a lot. I mean, like one other that always got me. So in 1989, Dave Scott and Mark Allen, the classic Iron War, Dave Scott's course record going in was 8:28. He went 8:10, took 18 minutes off his course record and lost, right? So and both of them ran, nobody run under 2:49. They ran 2:40 and 2:41 with the transition time included. I just think now with so much technology, wind tunnel, 3D printing, the plated shoes, just nutrition, how to train for this stuff. And seeing these kids coming from Super League and from ITU, the World Cup athletes, they're 28-minute 10K guys. None of our folks were running 28 minutes back in the day. So when those folks step up after the Olympics, it's going to be amazing.
I've just got goosebumps as you're saying that. I think we've got a lot more excitement to come in our sport, haven't we? And hopefully you'll be here to give us those updates on the history, Bob.
Absolutely. We love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me ask you the questions this time.
Anytime.
Well, thanks for that, Heather, and thanks, Bob, for joining Heather. It's always good to hear from Bob and get his perspective on how the race went down. By all accounts, a very successful race, and we definitely enjoyed watching it. For those who missed the full results, let's just run through the top 10 quickly. I don't know whether you've been under a rock for the last few days, but anyway, Lucy Charles-Barclay taking the win there ahead of Anne Haug with Laura Phillip in third.
Yeah, but in fourth we had Taylor Knibb, who did receive a 1-minute penalty. We'll get on to in a second.
Yeah.
Daniel Reef in fifth, and then Chelsea Sodaro in sixth.
Yeah, Skarmuch was in seventh, Sarah True in eighth, Lisa Norden in ninth, and Justin McCauley rounding out the top 10 at the Ironman World Championships. So there's a few things to pick out from this. As Mark said, Taylor Knibb got a penalty. I mean, it was dubious at best. So they give out these water bottles that aren't bidons for your bike. They're just conveniently shaped water bottles, pretty much like you get from a grocery store. They're very thin plastic, and as soon as you pop the cap, they get very squishy, and then you put them in a bike cage and they don't really hold on. And obviously, Taylor Knibb had these behind her seat. She put one in, and not long after, she checked that her other one was there, and while she was checking, it just disappeared. And she got a penalty, 1 minute.
I think she may have also lost a personal one as well early on. So actually, it wasn't just, but yeah, I have seen a few unintentional littering.
Thankfully, this is not a DQ anymore. A few years ago, if you littered in any way, shape or form, you were instant disqualification. Now they've reduced that down to a 1 minute penalty. And to Taylor's credit, she handled it very well. So she was took it in her stride.
I mean, also whilst we're there, obviously she went on to take fourth place, coming off the bike in second. This is her first ever Ironman or Iron distance full stop. And in Kona, as you know, James, too well, it's different. It's brutal. And she hung on for fourth with a class field. And you can see her coming across the line. She was broken.
Yeah, exceptional performance. I always say, though, there's a lot to be said for the naivety of not knowing how bad the last half of a marathon is going to feel in Ironman. And next time, she's going to know it's coming and maybe a little bit more conservative early on. Also interesting, on race day, we noticed Dan Lorang, definitely the most successful coach in the world this year. He coached first place, second place, and eighth place at the Ironman World Championships. I mean, that is impressive. Hats off to him. That is an amazing record. So, yeah, well done.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, Kat Matthews was a big favourite going into the event, although a beginner also in Kona. So hadn't actually raced there despite obviously fantastic performances in the last couple of years. It just all sort of seemed to go Pete Tong for her. On the bike, she just started to feel terrible. As she says, I'm disgusted and embarrassed, but overwhelmingly sad by my race performance /DNF. No definitive explanation. I do know it was not the heart, brain, or psychological. Something was not right with me physically. And it says she goes on to say she just started to feel dizzy all over the place. She stopped to get water at an aid station, jumped onto the next group, and then it just continued, and she just actually felt unsafe in the end, so had to call it a day. But really sad to see that.
I mean, it's Kona. There's always people who have bad races, and often it's the novices. But I'm sure Kat will figure it out and be back stronger. She's definitely not the first champion who's gone to Kona and taken a while to figure it out. There's a lot of people who've been humbled by that race. So hats off to her for sticking it out and trying as hard as she could. some days it's just not your day. I think we'll definitely see her back at Kona.
But don't forget, you can check out our full Ironman race recap, which Heather actually filmed on the day of the race. We got out very quickly, so do go check that out if you want a quick recap of what went on.
Yep. Okay, there was another race happening over the weekend, Challenge Peguera Mallorca, which we spoke about earlier. Imogen Simmons, who took that nasty stack on her bike, actually went on to win the race. So didn't take herself out of the race, just a little oopsie in T2. But she still won ahead of Laura Madsen in second with Didi Deirdricks in third.
Yeah, and in the men's race, we had quite the race of Alistair Brownlee back at it again. Although not taking the win again. It was Yuri Killen that took the win again, ahead of Matthias Margier in second, and then Alistair Brownlee taking third.
Yeah, it's good to see Alistair racing again, even if he's not top step of the podium just yet. You can't help but think it's coming pretty soon, right? Upcoming this weekend, Super League Triathlon is back for their final in Neom in Saudi Arabia. I'll say it again, I said it last year. Go Google Neom in Saudi Arabia. It's a pretty interesting concept of a place to have a triathlon, or have anything really at this point, because it's a city that isn't really built yet.
They are in construction.
Under construction,
we believe.
Yeah. Also, Ironman Portugal happening this week, so tune in for that one.
Right, taking a look through some of your photos and videos this week, or this month, we're looking at taking on the weather.
Yeah, the weather is turning here in the northern hemisphere. It was pretty cold on my ride into work this morning. Well, not exactly atrocious weather, but it was cold.
I mean, basically, we want you guys to make us feel better by also sharing some bad weather stuff that you're having to endure.
While we sit on the turbo, you can go out in the weather and take some photos and send them to us. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yeah, and some people have actually done that. Kerry from Nelson, South Island in New Zealand said, training in winter at the bottom of the world for the hottest race, Kona, means a 6-hour ride starting in the dark with a temperature of 2 degrees that just got colder going into the valleys, and rain most of the way. Solo, because who's coming out on that ride if they don't have to? But I got it done, and I ran off the bike done, and it was time to head to my mother-in-law's 90th birthday high tea where I ate all the cakes.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, and now she sent this photo of her melting in the Kona lava fields. So that's quite the change in weather conditions. Hopefully her body can handle it.
And she says, with a blinding white stomach.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the race went well. Let us know in the comment section down below how you got on. Well, next one actually comes from... well, we don't know.
Yeah,
they didn't let us know who they are or the context behind this, but they had a proper adventure on their bikes.
We couldn't leave the photos up because they are the most epic weather-related bike photos I think we've ever seen.
I mean, I question how much cycling actually happened. I mean, even that photo there with them hiking with their bikes.
I kind of question how they got into this situation in the first place. Like they went out in a blizzard or something. Anyway, it looks pretty dramatic. Their bike, it looks like it's gone through about 6 feet of snow there. So they definitely took on the weather. And then we had one from Kaylee, who from Madison, Wisconsin in the USA. She said, my best friend and I suffered through a 100-kilometer ride in the pouring rain when there was no chance of rain, so we were not prepared. Oh dear. And this was 1 week after a 100-mile century ride, also in the pouring rain and cold. Of course, the days before and after each race were absolutely beautiful.
Classic.
This is how it goes. Murphy's Law, and they've sent this photo to us. Looks like that was in one of the challenges. We're not sure which one. The Badger Challenge, which is powering research, curing cancer. So clearly one of those was for charity. So suffering with a bit of rain and cold for charity is worth it, right?
Yeah, well, do keep your photos and videos coming in of you taking on the elements on the weather using the upload link that's on screen right now. You can find it in the description just down below. Say what? All right, time to take a look through some of your comments under our videos last couple of weeks and some entertaining ones. Discreet Knight said, I can't believe neither you nor Mark predicted that Lucy Charles-Barclay might win, not even for the podium. I've got to say, hands up, sorry, I didn't predict her taking the top 3, and I think quite a few people out there thought...
I'd just like to point out that Discreet Knight is talking about you as in Heather and Mark because they did the pre-race predictions. Not me, I wasn't there to give my predictions. So
you're off the hook.
That's how I got away with it.
But some people have gone on to say we totally wrote her off, and that's not the case because we did actually talk about her definitely being in contention. We just didn't know know where she was at this year. And I think a lot of people felt the same. It's like she's been a bit up and down this year. We weren't entirely sure. And I just sort of thought maybe some other athletes
I'm pretty sure you guys said in that video also that you were really hoping that she finally got that win after her 4 second places. So I don't think you guys wrote her off, but maybe you didn't include her in your top 3 podiums.
I'll absolutely put my hands up and say sorry for that because, I shouldn't have doubted her.
And then Cat Goes Woof said, an alternate title, 20 minutes 54 seconds of Heather needing to pee. Fascinating video. Thank you for doing the science.
So that is under a recent video where Heather ran in the UK in some relatively mild cold temperatures, and then again in Kona, and monitored how much fluid she lost, and they went through all the science of precision fuel and hydration. But I will admit, I watched the video too, and I felt like Heather literally talked about her needing a pee the entire video. So well noted there.
No prizes for guessing what was on her mind. Yeah. Still an interesting video, so you can go check that out if you do want to watch it. That is the end of the show. Coming up on the channel this week, we have a Zwift Tri Academy breakdown or wrap-up of how they all went at Kona and how that whole program went throughout the whole year. It's a pretty interesting watch.
Yeah, and if you would like to watch something at the moment, you can obviously watch our Ironman race recap video, which Heather did literally as the race was going on with the likes of Indy Lee and various other people. Or also, very excitingly, we got an interview with Lucy Charles-Barclay almost immediately, or the next day after the race, which is also very interesting. So go check that out and see you next time.
Yep, thanks for watching. Goodbye.